The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
Hi, I'm Dan Hoffman. Welcome to Farm Connections. You might not immediately think timber when considering the many crops of southern Minnesota and northern Iowa, but we have an amazing quality of hardwood in our area, and today we'll find out more about it. We'll also learn more about the Simmental breed of cattle at a major regional show. Ken Tisi helps us understand the definition of a farmer, and Hannah Ekblad talks about her career goals. Stay with us. Farm Connections is next.
Welcome to Farm Connections with your host, Dan Hoffman.
Brought to you in part by Absolute Energy, a locally owned facility producing 115 million gallons of ethanol every year, proudly supporting local economies in Iowa and Minnesota. Absolute Energy, adding value to the neighborhood.
We're at the Hormel Nature Center near Austin, Minnesota to learn a little bit more about forestry and how it impacts our community in our area. And with me is Kurt Hintz to help us with that story. Kurt is with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. Kurt, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here, Dan.
Well, tell us about your work with the DNR.
Well, I work out of the Lewiston office there, and I'm an assistant supervisor as well as the timber program forester.
So, how long have you been with the DNR?
I'm going on my 34th year now.
Wow. You've seen some highlights in that 34 years.
I have. It's been a great career. Enjoyed it.
Well, it's great to have a resource like you and your agency, the Department of Natural Resources. Let's say a farmer or a non-farmer, either one, has a concern about their woods, what to do about it, how to make it better, or even how to implement a woodland. What would you do?
I would have them call their nearest DNR forestry office. They could do a visit over the phone with the forester, kind of tell them what their issues or concerns are. We may be able to come out and do a site visit and walk their woods with them, give some ideas on management. We may be able to send them some materials through the mail that they could study up on and call us again if they have more questions. Sometimes we refer them to private consulting foresters as well, if that makes sense.
Well, tell us about our geographical area. We're in Mower County right now, and we're kind of on the edge of Prairie meeting Big Woods, right?
Right. Yeah, we're kind of losing the woods here. I work a lot more in the counties closer to the Mississippi River. They're a little more heavily wooded, but there's still some valuable wood lots out this way as well, and some precious wooded areas along the streams that help prevent erosion. And so woods are still important here too.
Well, some families use them for recreation, some use them for income, some use them as a legacy to leave to the next generation. So let's go back to that family that calls you and says, Kurt, we've got a woodland, we've been approached by a person that wants to buy, say, hardwoods or wood or lumber out of our woods. Mm-hmm. What do you do? What's next?
Well, first thing we'd probably do is walk their woods with them to see if, yes, their trees really are mature and need to be cut. We'd give them ideas on options for cutting. People are always concerned about doing a clear cut and that it's going to look horrible, but it can be done in phases, or there can be patch cutting done. With certain species you can do select cutting. Mm-hmm. It just depends on your particular stand of trees. So we would talk about that, talk about the logging process, how to get in touch with the logger.
And how is timber priced?
Priced in this part of the state, we sell it per 1,000 board feet. So the lower value species like cottonwood or aspen might go for $25 a 1,000. Something like red oak may go $700,000 per 1,000 board feet, and black walnut even higher than that. So it varies according to the species and the quality of the wood.
Big contrast.
Yeah, there's a big difference. So
would it also depend on how many branches are on the trunk for quality, if there's knots or?
Well, of course, the diameter of the tree is very important, and then the height, the number of logs. we measure logs at 16 foot, and then also half logs we count. So you need to have at least a 8-foot half log in a tree for it to be merchantable. And then you don't want a lot of branch scars, cracks, rot. There's quite a myriad of defects out there that can affect the quality of it and the price that you'd eventually get for the logs.
So how many board feet would be in a 70-foot tree that's about 2 foot in diameter?
I would say in the neighborhood of 200 board feet. So that would be 20% of a 1,000 board feet.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're offered $700 per 1,000, it would be 20% at that 700.
It's about $140.
Correct. Yeah.
What kind of reclamation or reforestation plan would you put in place with that person after those valuable timber, valuable timber has been taken out of the woods?
Sometimes you can actually start before the sale. You can you go through and do a little bit of inventory and see how much regeneration is coming up already, and then you can supplement that with hand planting, and that can be done before the sale. We do that quite a bit on our state properties. We'll go in and plant hundreds of hardwood seedlings per acre, and then hopefully the canopy will be removed within a year or two, and then those trees will be ready to take off. But you can also plant after the sale has occurred, and we recommend usually in the neighborhood of 500, 600 trees per acre. So you kind of flood the area with seedlings, and we realize that you'll lose some to deer and other animals that are going to munch on them, but hopefully you'll get a good percentage of coming through.
Let's take a walk into your office.
Sounds great.
Kurt, do you feel more comfortable in the new office?
I feel great in here, yeah. I'm at home here.
This is beautiful.
It is a beautiful stand of woods, yeah.
So we've got a wonderful canopy, upper canopy. Tell us what we're looking at.
Well, you got some really large bur oak here. I noticed some white oak, kind of a mid-canopy or understory of basswood trees. So a nice mix. They look pretty healthy. Yeah.
It's great. And of course it's giving us a nice air-conditioned feel.
Yes, it feels about 10 degrees cooler in here, doesn't it?
How does this parcel of woods fit into the bigger ecosystem that you work with?
Well, this is along a river corridor, and again, it would make a good travel corridor for wildlife. The erosion protection that it offers here. This woods here has probably been around for over 100 years, I would say. The older trees are possibly ready to be harvested. They don't live forever either, so a lot of times I do have to talk people into harvesting when they'd maybe rather not. But it's a renewable crop, so they're not gonna. The woods will return one day, so it's not a bad thing either to harvest when the trees are mature.
What happens if you go past the prime time for harvesting a tree?
Well, you will start to lose some of the value from the wood as it starts to rot and decay inside the tree. Also, we do get some stump sprouting from trees as another method to regenerate, and as the trees get older, they tend to not stump sprout as well too. So it's another reason not to let it go too far, to harvest a little bit younger age.
What other things economically are important from wood or forests?
Well, there are some specialty crops that come from the woods too. People pick ginseng, mushrooms, berries. Other parts of the state, they are after birch bark, balsam boughs, things like that. So there's a lot of specialty crops too, not just wood that comes from the forest.
What special threats do the woods have?
Well, insect and disease problems are always an issue. We're very concerned about emerald ash borer moving into the state. It's already here. It goes after and kills any kind of ash tree, and Minnesota has more ash trees than any other state, so that's a big concern.
Well, I like that you have a resource in your office and yourself that we can call on when we have questions about forests and about woodland management. But I'd also like to just take a walk through the prairie and show the contrast from what we are here. Both are important, but let's go take a look at that prairie.
Sure, let's do that.
Well, Kurt, we're certainly looking at something different.
Certainly is, and you know, when this area was first settled, you would have had a lot of prairie like this and also oak savanna habitat. But diversity is great, and this is quite a contrast to where we just were.
It's warmer, it's breezier, and there's different plants. What are we looking at?
Different plants. You'll also have different animals that use this area. You know, turkeys will be out here displaying. There's a lot of different insects that animals will feed on. Just, you know, probably hundreds of different prairie plants in here. Just lots and lots of diversity, which is a good thing.
Kurt, when we were in the woods, you mentioned patch clearing as a way to take out a portion of the forest and then regenerate. Would that look similar to what we're looking at here?
Well, this would probably be a little bit bigger than most patch cuts and certainly a lot cleaner looking. But yeah, this is the general idea, is that you'd open up a spot where you'd get a lot of sunlight to the ground and get those sun-loving species coming back, and particularly oaks.
And you mentioned oak savanna. Tell us a little more about that.
Oak savanna was a type of habitat with scattered oak trees, mainly bur oak, but a few, you know, pin oak and white oak as well. It's kind of a unique habitat. There'd be native shrubs as well mixed in there, and it varied quite a bit from, you know, just 2 or 3, 4 trees to the acre to, you know, maybe 30% canopy cover. So it kind of was variable, but quite common around here when it was first settled.
Well, thanks for the work you do, and thanks for sharing about the ecosystems in and around us.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Kurt. Stay with us. Kent Tesey is next with the definition of a farmer, and it's definitely not one size fits all.
Thanks, Dan. Today I want to explore the definition of the term farmer in today's agriculture industry. Who is a farmer? It probably depends on who you ask and what their perception of a farmer is. How a farmer is defined in Minnesota or Iowa may be different from the definition in Texas or California, 2 other major large agricultural production states in the U.S. USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, defines a farmer or a farm, either one, as any unit that produces $1,000 or more worth of goods and products, or has more than $1,000 worth of sales in a given year. Certainly that broadens the perspective of what a farmer is. Based on the 2012 Census of Agriculture, under that definition, there are 2.1 million farms in the United States. That number has been gradually declining over the past few decades. Actually, when we get into farms, about 75% of those farms listed had total sales of less than $50,000 per year, which is relatively small. Only 4% had total sales of over $1 million per year, which gets into commercial production agriculture like we have across many areas of Minnesota and Iowa. Those 4% of the farms account for 75 to 80% of the total production in the United States. Obviously, when we get into farms, we have many types of farms. We have the larger commercial type farms, both crop production, livestock production. We also have the smaller type farms that sell goods and products off the farm or at farmers markets, certainly wineries becoming quite popular in the area. And interestingly, in the last Census of Agriculture, the 2 groups that tended to be growing were the very large farms, which doubled in size or doubled in numbers in the state of Minnesota, and the smaller farms that sell at farmers markets, the wineries that sell fresh meat and produce off the farm. So again, a wide range of what we define as a farm and a farmer across the United States. Production agriculture in the United States features a wide range of farmers from various backgrounds, ages, and experience, all with the goal of producing a safe and healthy food supply for the citizens of the United States, as well as for people around the world. I'm Kent Tisi, and we'll see you next time.
We're at the Mower County Fairgrounds in Austin, Minnesota for the American Simmental Junior Association's judging contest. And with me is the judging contest event coordinator, Kelly Schmidt from New Ulm. Kelly, thanks for joining us.
You bet, glad to be here.
Well, tell us what's happening today.
Well, they're having a judging contest right now that we're at the conclusion of right here, and they've placed 6 classes of livestock this morning. They've had a variety of heifers and cow-calf pairs and beef animals to evaluate. And after evaluating those animals, they turn in an official placing, and they're scored based upon that. And then we're just finishing up with oral reasons, where they, at the end of the contest on 2 classes, they go and defend their placings in front of an official judge by giving an oral set of reasons for why they placed what they placed. So they also were asked some questions about a class to see if they remembered certain highlights and features of the animals in that given class. So it all combines for a total score, and the kids are competing to see how they placed and how their evaluation skills were measured up, and that's kind of the bulk of the contest.
So they're developing their skills of looking at animals and selecting animals that will do good things on the farm for production and also good things for the consumer?
Absolutely, and that's exactly, we tried to have a blend of classes here. There were 6 classes. We had a blend. We had a few where they were evaluating the cattle based on their show ring appeal, some things that maybe you'd look for if you're going to show or exhibit them. We also had classes where they used some production data and a scenario to pick the best animals if they were going to be on a farm or ranch, to raise beef cows out on the pasture, just like we need to raise beef. We also had a set of market steers that were generously provided by a cattle feeder north of town, and so those cattle literally came straight from the feedlot, and here in a few days they'll go to market and be beef. So it's not just a show. Yes, there is an exhibition here, but we really wanted to blend the classes that have real world beef production to it, and that's what the kids got to evaluate and sharpen their skills on all those facets of beef production.
Why does the Simmental Association feel it's important to develop these young leaders?
The American Simmental Association has had a junior program for many years, and they've always been a big backer, as a lot of breed associations are, in really trying to develop young people to go on and be leaders in our beef business. You know, the age of the ranching community is getting older and older, and there's not a lot of people always replacing those folks. So the association believes that as having contests like this, if you can get these people to really enjoy beef production, develop skills not only in this judging contest, but in some other things we do, that hopefully they'll go on and want to raise beef, or at least be part of the system that they can help feed the country and raise that good protein source that is beef. So that's what the focus of the junior program really has been, and it's great that the American Simmental Association has provided resources, funding to really develop those juniors, along with their membership that raises the cattle across the country.
Well, Kelly, I understand the beef herd nationwide, the numbers are actually down from what they used to be. Why?
They are, yeah. The beef numbers across the country, the last number of years have been at historic lows since 1952-53. It's the lowest that they've been. And there's really a lot of reasons why. And there's some of that is the aging population. There's certainly some ranchers that have gotten to retirement age with nobody to come back. So those cattle have exited the business, and the ranch maybe goes empty. Another big part is there is no doubt that a few years ago we saw record high prices in commodities for grains, and it made grain very, very valuable in states like Minnesota and Iowa and Illinois, and there was an awful lot of pasture that was put into crop production. And when that happens, you need that grassland to graze a cow. That's just the way it is. You can feed cattle in more of a confined situation, but for beef cows, you really need that. You need that grazing land. And when that goes into farming production, that means that's less land to run beef cows on, and some of those cows were not replaced, and that contributes to the lower numbers. And then one last thing is drought situations also affect that in parts of the country, is why we've seen that a few years ago in the South and Southwest, and it's currently going on in California. They simply can't run cows because the resources aren't there. So a lot of contributing factors all came together, and we are sitting where we're the lowest number of cows that we've ever had. In some ways that's good. It's kept the prices just out of simple supply and demand. When the supply is down, the price is pretty good. But yet it's made it challenging in some situations because there's just not cattle out there.
If I understand right, this is the largest regional show you've ever had.
This is the largest regional show that the American Junior Simmental Association has ever had. We always do have a national classic, and this is more of a regionalized event, and this is the largest regional they've ever had. So we're really excited to host that, and we're glad that the kids from across the Midwest and multiple states have come here to Austin this week to do contests like this, develop some skills, make new friends, and hopefully really enjoy beef production so they can move that forward.
And Kelly, thanks for being here and utilizing these wonderful facilities at the Morrow County Fairgrounds.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great facilities, and Austin's a great place to have this, so we're really, really glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you.
Stay tuned for more Farm Connections. Now we're talking with Mary Menning of Hayfield, Minnesota. Welcome to Farm Connections.
Thank you.
Well, you've been busy here at the trade show. What have you been doing?
I've competed in different contests here, and then I'll also be showing my heifer tomorrow and participating in showmanship on Friday.
What's showmanship?
Showmanship is really, it's not about your animal and how it looks, it's how you present yourself and how your animal is presented towards the judge. So it's really, it's kind of opposite of the show. Instead of judging the animal, you're judging yourself.
Well, you've been a member of the American Simmental Junior Association for about 4 years, right?
Yes.
What have you learned in that 4 years?
I've really just learned a lot about nutrition and basic genetics that have really helped my herd and my show heifers really grown to become better performing.
So you've got a family operation that involves beef animals. Tell us about that.
My siblings and I own and operate about 15 head of Simmental cattle, which is relatively small, but we've only been active for about 4 years, so we're growing. And then my dad has a feedlot and also does cropland with his brothers.
Did you start this project in FFA?
Yes, I actually did. It kind of grew from a small 4-H project into a bigger FFA project.
What's the most significant thing you learned today at the show?
The most significant thing that I've learned, not only at the show, but also throughout raising Simmental cattle, is just the importance of genetics and nutrition. Time after time, you just see that the better genetics are, creating high-performing cattle for the producer. So really learning that, and also how to feed them and what to feed, is probably the most important skills that I've learned.
Mary, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Exploring career opportunities in agriculture. Ag 101. Funding for Ag 101 provided by the Ag Star Fund for Rural America.
Hello, we're joined with Hannah Ekblad from the Zumbrota-Mazeppa FFA chapter. Hannah, welcome to the State FFA Convention.
Thank you.
Great, it's so nice to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
Good. Well, let's learn about some things that you'd like to do for an ag career. I know that you're a senior in high school. Where would you like to go to college, and what would be your major, and how did you come to that conclusion?
So I'm planning to go to the University of Wisconsin River Falls to major in agricultural education. My plan is to be an ag teacher at the high school level and an FFA advisor. I really came to that conclusion around my sophomore year, between my sophomore and junior year, bounced back and forth for a while. But I've always wanted to teach, and agricultural education gives great hands-on experiences and really prepares students for the real world. So that's why I want to go into that.
That's right. And with a degree in ag education, you not only can make a difference in changing students' lives, but you can also, if the need arises in the future, go into industry. You can do consulting with an ag ed degree. You can go into lots of different various organizations, because ag ed majors are so well-rounded and rehearsed, and they understand agriculture and people. It's such a great mix, and so you're going to be very successful that degree.
For sure.
Excellent.
And they're in very high demand right now.
Yes,
so.
they are. We do not have enough ag ed teachers to fill all the positions, so you will actually have a job before you're even done. Well, we always say that in ag ed you're going to be changing lives, and so I really believe that. So in that role of being a potential ag ed future teacher, what are some great things that you've done in your current FFA career, whether it be leadership or CDEs or SEEs? Let's tell the audience about your experience.
Well, currently I'm serving as our chapter president. I also served as Region 8 secretary over this past year. So I got to lead several camps conferences, a blast.
It's great.
This past convention, I got to compete for parliamentary procedure. It was an amazing experience. I loved that career development event. It was a lot of fun.
So if we were to look at your coursework, whether it be high school or even in the future at UW River Falls, what are some of the courses that really motivate you and get excited? Because ag ed encompasses a wide range of classes.
That's really what I'm very excited about, is that I get to learn just a little bit of everything, and you know about an inch deep of everything, and that's a lot of fun. I love doing that. I'm interested, I did a soil judging CDE this fall, and I'm interested to take some soils classes. I think those will be fun.
Oh, great. And with soils, you know, just specifically, you can, there are lots of jobs in soil science.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it be soil consulting or different agronomic consulting and understanding the importance of the different soil types. And so I think, you know, expanding your knowledge on that would be great addition with your ag ed career.
For sure.
So, well, thank you so much for your time. It's
thank
been a
you.
pleasure interviewing you.
Very much.
Good luck,
here.
Hannah.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Farm Connections. I'm your host, Dan Hoffman.